Jaden Daniels, 350 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 45 points for the Commanders. They take down the 15-win Detroit Lions on Saturday night. And I don't get how any of that was possible. I thought you were supposed to sit rookie quarterbacks.
No, yeah. You want to sit them. You want to let them watch and learn.
They got to marinate.
Ruin them. Yeah.
You don't want to break them.
That's how you develop a quarterback these days.
Especially thin guys like Jaden. You don't want a thin quarterback out there on a bad team.
Can't play him. No, his team must have been really good the year before. What pick did they have?
I think the Commanders are on a good,
it's a good
NFC title game run, aren't they?
That's a really good outfit, the Washington Commanders. Although they have a new owner, they got a new GM, so they really are actually now legitimately good. But no, this, in all seriousness, this is one of many examples where the NFL prides itself on worst to first and first to worst and parity. And, you suck one year? Well, you can be great the next year. And everything they did in the offseason wasn't like a slam dunk obvious choice either. No. We rolled their eyes when they hired Dan Quinn. They drafted Jaden Daniels, who I think a lot of people liked, and we were kind of doing the scouting report because you didn't know who the Patriots were going to get. But you're like, all right, still a rookie quarterback. Austin Eckler seemed like on his last legs. Zach Ertz legit seemed like he was like a dead player. So they added all these guys. Was it Bobby Wagner? Like, how old are those three guys?
Bobby Wagner has got to be in his mid-30s,
They're like 100
right?
years old combined, those three guys. And
I bet Eckler's younger than you think. But Wagner
but running back. You got to grade like a dog. Like, he's in running back years.
I Googled it. I got Franz
I bet
Wagner.
Eckler's 30.
I got Franz Wagner. Hang on.
Franz Wagner, good player.
Wagner's 34. Eckler's, in his 30s, I'm sure.
Oh, he's 29. You're right. Yeah, but he plays like he's 39.
but that's a 40-year-old at every other
Correct.
position.
Yeah, the 40-year-old running back.
Yeah.
And then Zach Ertz. I thought Zach Ertz retired like 3 times. How old is he? He's 34.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything like, they're going to be amazing. And you're like, they're in the same division as the Eagles. And even at the time, we were saying, the Cowboys. Like, what chance do the Commanders have? And they just, week 1, played Jaden Daniels. He looked awesome. Week 1, he had a little dip in the middle, but then just kept rolling. And the guy had an unbelievable season. He's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. And now he's in the NFC Championship game with one of the big upsets in recent playoff memory.
So, to me, I think it's unfair to say you could be where Washington is, like in a conference championship game, because the AFC is so much better than the NFC.
That's true, but they did beat the best team, or at least we thought in the NFC.
That's true. But I'm not going to say if the Patriots had the same offseason as Washington, and they didn't half-assed their offseason, and they hired the right coach, and they hired real coordinators, and they filled out the roster around Drake May, and they started Drake May week 1. If they did all those things, I legitimately think the Patriots could have been a playoff team this year. I felt that way all offseason, and I was wildly disappointed in how they approached free agency. Their draft was terrible. I didn't like a lot of the hires they made last year, and so I think all that's on display. I'm not saying they'd be in the AFC title game, because now you're knocking off Buffalo or Baltimore or Kansas City or someone like that. Yeah. I'm not going to say that. But they easily could have been a playoff team if they made some correct decisions last year. Washington knocked most of them out of the park. And so, I see text here, 617-779-7937. Jones, didn't you say you wanted Jaden Daniels last year or didn't want Jaden Daniels because he was crying on his mom? No, that was Caleb Williams.
That was not Jaden
Which, by the way, I feel vindicated about. I liked Jaden Daniels a lot last year. I liked him early on in the year when a lot of people felt like it was a 2-quarterback class. I liked him. And so I just like Drake May better, which brings up the next text. Don't ever say Drake May is better than Jaden Daniels. That one I've been guilty of.
Well, he's not right now.
I would have drafted Drake May before Jaden Daniels. Yeah. I was saying even last week, I'm like, I think I'd still take him. That might need to be on probation now that he's a win away from the Super Bowl.
No, I think Jaden Daniels right now is way above everybody else in his class. He's still playing, for God's sakes. All these other guys got eliminated months ago. He's still playing. So he is far and away the best one. But just like I don't think you can completely write off Caleb Williams. You can't say Caleb Williams is a bust. You can't also put Jaden Daniels in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's awesome right now. Bo Nix made the playoffs. How's he going to be in year 2? As much as I like him, he could go the other way in year 2.
Sure.
Like, guys can change from year to year. C.J. Stroud a year ago at this time, we looked at him like, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. Then this year, you're like, maybe 10, right? Like, he's kind of sliding down that scale.
His individual play dropped off. They won another playoff game.
They did. He has that.
He was absolutely worse this year. Baker Mayfield dropped off early in his career. You pointed this out
Drake
a lot.
But Drake May, if you surround him with some actual
Mac got worse year 1 to year 2.
Much worse. Yeah, right.
Also, Jaden Daniels is an old rookie.
He is.
So is Bo Nix.
He's a very old rookie.
So is Malik Cunningham.
Okay. There's something with those two, though.
But I also
more experience going to the playoffs.
But also not to go through the whole argument that we had in April when they drafted these guys. everyone's like, well, Drake May's so young, Drake May's so inexperienced, Jaden Daniels played all these games. Like, Drake May played 2 full seasons of college. That used to be plenty.
Yeah.
Guys used to go to college, sit for a couple years, then play for 2 years, then get drafted, and then play. But whatever. Like, I don't think he's like this, guy with zero experience and all of that. But Drake May had one of the worst head coaches in the NFL, an offensive coordinator who's really a quarterback's coach, all the excuses that we've given him. Already they've made moves to improve that. So, I don't know, this might sound like a homer, but don't you think Drake May's second season, there's a chance it could kind of mirror Jaden, not the conference championship game, to your point, but just sort of mirror Jaden Daniels' rookie year?
Yes, and there shouldn't be excuses. I said this about Vrabel.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing in a guy who's been to an AFC title game. You're going to have a real coaching staff. I think I'm encouraged that maybe Josh McDaniels isn't the slam dunk that I thought he was as an offensive coordinator, but you're going to have real experienced coaches. You're going to have a real coaching staff. I think you're really going to spend money. Hopefully you draft better than a year ago. You have a ass schedule, which you've highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible schedule.
You could win 9 games rolling out of bed.
So you should be a playoff team next year. There's no excuse not to be a playoff team. And that's a year after Jaden Daniels is in the NFC title game and maybe the Super Bowl for all we know. 617-779-7937. With Washington, by the way, in the NFC title game, the longest drought in the NFC without a title game appearance. Do you know who it is?
Cowboys?
Dallas Cowboys.
95, right?
Uh-huh.
That's pretty amazing.
That is
awesome. That is juicy stuff. And they have to watch 2 division teams play in the Super Bowl or 2 in the conference championship.
NFC title game, yeah.
1 in the Super Bowl. The other thing, and we have a whole week to talk about this, but it just jumped out to me as, the games wrapped up over the weekend, is either Nick Sirianni or Dan Quinn is going to be coaching in their second Super Bowl.
That's crazy because when we listed all the coaches,
we don't really like either guy.
No.
And one of them, they're both gonna.
The only 2 that we both took Vrabel ahead of. You took more.
I had a few guys,
coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry,
Dan Campbell.
I took more coaches. You had fewer. I had Campbell, and not a good one.
Nope.
But when it comes to those 2 guys, they're going to be in a second Super Bowl, and we're both like, these guys stink.
Yeah, no, we don't want him. It's like, you sure? Like, Sirianni and Quinn are actually pretty good.
617-779-7937. I want to get into more of the coaching. Ben Johnson, his day, has the shine come off? Is that fair to criticize Ben Johnson and question him big picture? We get into Brady as well. I like Brady on Saturday night, which I did not expect to come in and say.
That game overall was insane. Like,
it was a crazy game.
Not 2021 Bills-Chiefs, but kind of close.
Yeah.
Like, it was wildly entertaining.
It was.
Yeah.
Let's go to the phones. Tim's in Springfield. Hello, Tim.
Hello, fellas.
Hello.
Yeah. One thing that I want to see is like a revision to that forward pass, quarterback when he's dumping the ball to avoid a sack. The Rams game and Vikings game last week, I think Stafford had his head down. He couldn't see anybody. He flicked it backhanded.
Do you know, Tim, to jump in.
Should have been intentional grounded.
Tim, hang on, to jump in. You know the play he's talking about where Stafford probably should have grounded it. He was in the grass with a defensive player.
Yeah.
So you're going back to that, Tim? You want to see that changed?
Okay.
Well, yeah, I want to make sure, now the quarterbacks, they have so much going their way. Well, just like you were saying with Mahomes. He can run down the sideline. He doesn't go down. All of a sudden, he just takes a pass. He takes a couple extra yards. He's not worried about getting hit.
Yeah, I'm okay with protecting the quarterbacks, and that Stafford play should have been grounding. I'm with you on that. And maybe the league will make strides to correct that. They probably should. I'm okay with protecting the quarterback. Mahomes does, and this is not a Patriots fan crying, just Mahomes does take that a step far, where that flop was so pathetic.
That sucks.
On Saturday.
Yeah, you can't.
That I
wonder that at all.
I wonder if they're through the looking glass on this, where now it's going to turn back on them, or it's just bad karma or something like that, and it's going to catch up with all the flopping. Because it's one thing for the refs to give you a call on a bang bang play. The Patriots got every call for 2 decades. The Chiefs are getting every call. It's a whole different thing when you're begging for it and trying to trick the referees into doing it. And I do wonder if they're tempting fate on that. That's all I said on it earlier.
Yeah, no, I know. The grounding one bothers me a little bit less, but I understand how impossible you're making it for the defense.
How often do you see that? I mean,
that's
that you don't see that ever. You see Mahomes, quarterbacks embellishing on the sideline with a hit all the time.
Oh, I think every time Mahomes runs, you're wondering, is it just going to be the run, or are they going to tack on 15?
And again,
just no matter when he gets hit.
Maybe it looks so weird because he runs so strangely.
That's the conspiracy, which I think once people really pay attention to it, they're going to be on board with.
I'm gonna stop watching it. Or start watching it.
He's not as smooth a runner as Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, so when he gets hit, you're like, oh my God, I feel bad.
Chris is in Worcester. Hello, Chris.
Hey, guys, thank you for taking the call. I was shopping if I missed your first call. But listen, I don't want to be Monday, whatever the hell, quarterback. But, yes, it was horrible officiating. But can I go back in time a little bit?
Please.
Because I want to ask about Corey Dillon. Was he a
That's way back in time.
Or what? Yeah, that is way back. But remember we were talking about running backs and stuff like that? You guys were talking about running backs. Did he do anything in the playoffs? Like, was he a beat? I can't remember his really.
Yeah, Corey Dillon in 04. I mean, I don't know his postseason numbers offhand, but I remember him being impactful. Yeah,
Guy
for
was
sure.
the man. Well, yeah. So anyway, we were talking about Saquon Barkley with the Eagles. I think this is where he's talking about. And
we were talking about running backs making a comeback and the impact on winning. I mean,
but there
Corey Dillon in
hasn't
04.
Oh, he was great. But there hasn't been a Super Bowl MVP running back since 1997, which was Terrell Davis. Corey Dillon in 04.
He must have been good in the Colts game, right?
144 yards rushing in the Colts game.
Yeah. The Steelers, I think they aired it out against the Steelers, if I
Still
remember.
had 73 in a touchdown.
Okay. And then the Super Bowl against Philly,
75 in a touchdown.
Okay, so
that guy's a man.
Okay, but that's only one awesome game in there.
That's not 200 yards or 240 from scrimmage and like 3 touchdowns.
Right.
No, it's not that, but it's like very effective. Yeah, he was really, really good, but that's also 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time since the running back has been the featured guy in the offense.
Sonny Michel ran him to a Super Bowl.
Sonny Michel's very good. He had James Devlin in front of him.
That's true.
Smashing guys in the face.
You got the hammer to the nail there.
Yeah.
We'll get back into your feedback. Should the shine come off Ben Johnson today? Chris Scheim is going to be in today at 2 on WEI Afternoons. I heard Greg's show talking about this a little bit. He was arguably you liked Ben Johnson?
I loved him.
I'd say Scheim was arguably the biggest proponent.
Yep.
Is it fair to have questions about Ben Johnson after that game? And the play I would highlight is the Jameson Williams throw, the interception.
So, yeah, that was the worst one because Jared Goff played poorly.
Really bad.
And you can look at that one two ways. Like, Jared Goff had a great regular season in part because of Ben Johnson, I think. You got to give Goff himself some credit. But that's who Goff is. Like, I've never been sold on Goff. When we were ranking the quarterbacks, I remember last week I was like, I guess I have him like 4th or 5th in the playoffs just because how good he's been. Mm-hmm. But I've never trusted him. I remember the whole week lead up when they were playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl, being like, this guy stinks. Like he did in that game.
Yeah.
Now he's gotten better. He's been a much better NFL quarterback than I thought, but that was still in him. And so some of those turnovers that he had, I can't put on Ben Johnson. He had some crazy plays that even Brady said he's never seen before. And that was my reaction too. This
is what I was going to say. It's like, so because they ran one wide receiver pass that didn't work, you have to look at all the other plays and ignore them. All the great play calls he made.
Dude, that one play where they pitched it to like the running back who then pitched it.
It was Montgomery. Montgomery pitched it to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Insane.
Yeah.
It was sick.
Brady legitimately was like, I've never seen that.
Yeah. No, they had 521 yards of offense and 31 points, and it's like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
So I don't think he had the greatest day. I do think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And if you want to say he's fallen a little too in love with the trick plays, I want to say Ryan Clark has been talking about this on First Take and Get Up. Maybe I'm miscrediting, but I believe that's who's been saying it. It's like it used to be kind of a gimmicky thing you'd see here and there to now their offense kind of needs it. And they needed it,
but they
on Saturday
work a lot. Like he's got a pretty high hit rate on him.
They do, but if you're constantly relying on gimmick plays, that does say something about the overall offense, right? Your straight up plays don't work, so you got to go with the gimmick plays. I think that's all a fair criticism.
I think as long as you're moving the ball, like, and it's not like he seems like he's going to newer plays. I think Jameson Williams is what really hurt him was that play, and I guess you can't call that play if you don't trust that player. Because I'm sure he coached it. Hey, run over here, see a look. If you don't have it, eat it. Like, I'm sure that, like, with all these trick plays and all these, especially when it's a non-quarterback throwing it, I don't think the coaching point was get over there and huck it. No matter what the defense is showing you, huck it. But Jameson Williams, probably still off the high of his crazy touchdown run that he had earlier in the game, was probably feeling good about it. He's like, I'll make this play too. And so that does go down to Ben Johnson. But overall, I mean, their offense, they lost a shootout.
Yeah.
I don't look at the offensive side of Detroit and be like, what the hell happened to you guys?
Ben Johnson's still greater than Mike Vrabel in my estimation.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to criticize Ben Johnson coming out of that game. I want to bring up the Brady aspect. Rick in Wilbraham has a take on Tom Brady. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I know someone mentioned you like Tom Brady. I thought he did a great job. The line, I don't know if anybody picked up on it, about towards the end of the game, he goes, I'm not sure Dan Quinn likes owners coming down
It was
That
a good
was
line.
great.
To the field before the end of the game.
That was really funny.
Brady had a really good night. Brady's had a terrible year. I still don't think he's good at the job, but if Brady's going to do more of what he did on Saturday night, and maybe it's because he's been interviewing Ben Johnson and around the Lions, and he's done a million Lions games. He's talked to Aaron Glenn and Ben. Maybe he's just super plugged in with them. You know, he called out the 12 men on the field like way in advance, long before anybody noticed it. Certainly anybody on the field, the referees, the teams included. I thought that was a good line about Dan Quinn and the owner on the field. So I thought Brady had a good night, and I'll give him his due. I've given him a lot of criticism. I thought he was good on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. I think if his first game was his worst game, his most recent was his best, that's a good thing. I know that's what a lot of people kind of predicted with Brady, and we were like, I don't know, like it just seems like this isn't going to be his thing. I still have a lot of questions about the future of him doing that job, especially if he's like more involved.
You don't think he's going to do it?
No, I don't.
Don Yee came out and said he, quote-unquote, plans on it.
All right, great. But I think especially if he has like a good Super Bowl and at least ends on like a high note, I think he'd be more driven if everyone's like, oh, he sucks at it. He'd be like, all right, screw you. He'd come back and do it. Like he'd be motivated. But if he has a huge say in what's going on with the Raiders, I don't know. It seems kind of odd to me if he ends up doing that.
No, he should. The NFL should force his hand on picking one or the other.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Let's give him credit where credit's due. He was solid in the game there. And I'll tell you, because I had my doubts, especially, 3 months ago, knowing that Fox was going to do the Super Bowl, you're like, this could really be ugly for Brady. But I don't think it will be. I think he'll be fine.
I think maybe he's learned something over the course of the
Does
year.
he wear all 7 rings? I feel like he kind of should.
He should.
To the broadcast, be like,
will he? I bet not.
And just hold him in front of your don't mention him. Just hold him in front of your face when they go to the 2-shot. Like, yeah, here we are, New Orleans, getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I've won 2 here. Did he win 2 in New Orleans?
Yeah, maybe.
Did he play 2 in New Orleans? I forget. They've been to 2 in New Orleans.
I forget. Was it 2 in Houston?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of 96, actually. I'd have to go back and really
96, I think they lost.
Are you do you think the Lions have to move on from Goff?
Well, like every time we ask this question about a team, who do you move on from, or are you going to commit to quarterback X? It's like, well, I don't really want to, but who are we going to get? Where do you go from there? I think
the answer is Rodgers, Cousins. Names like that.
Probably keep Goff then. If those are the alternatives, I'd probably keep Goff. I think they're in for a much more rude awakening, though.
Without the coordinators.
And you could say, well, Aaron Glenn had a terrible game. The Commanders scored nonstop. They did have, not to do the excuse train, a lot of injuries. They had a lot of injuries going into the game. They dropped more guys in the game. Like, that was a lot of second, third stringers for the Lions defense. It was not a good game by any stretch. But you lose those 2 guys, and then you get Dan Campbell, who can't even get 11 guys to be on the field.
Not great.
That's tough for Dan Campbell.
So I wonder if they move on from Goff. I'm not telling you I have a great solution, but I do wonder if they move on from him. You can jump in on all this, 617-779-7937. Meanwhile, we're going to get to the Celtics coming up, not to steal any Billy's thunder here in trending. But Michael Silverman in the Globe came out with, the Celtics are expected to have 4 bidders in this round of bids.
The Jones and Keefe show, one of them.
We're absolutely one.
Yep.
They're expecting around a $6 billion valuation, which I don't buy for a second, but that's what Silverman wrote the Celtics expect. Right. They don't own their own building. Their payroll is astronomical. So 4 bidders. Pagliuca is one which we knew. He adds that the Fenway Sports Group, which owns the Red Sox, the Penguins, and Liverpool, is also expected to make a bid. No one would feel good about that, correct? I don't think I need to extrapolate on that much more. If John Henry owns the Celtics,
I would not want that at all.
Not great, Bob.
Nope. That would be the Pits.
Who's that worse for, the Celtics or the Red Sox?
The Celtics.
Yeah.
Because the Red Sox, we've kind of unfortunately gotten used to where they're at, and we're like, all right, if they're going to win, they're going to have to win it this way. The Celtics, we just got this huge payroll, and with the team, although the team is struggling right now, which we'll talk about, but they're going big. They just won a title. They're trying to keep that title window going. So if they come in here and trade away like half the roster to save money, that would be a problem.
That would not be good. John Henry could, he could trade Mookie Betts and Jason Tatum. That'd be a good legacy to have here in this city.